Like I said, every time I come on this side of town, it's just a different feeling for me. It's a spirit. I feel like it's a spirit that comes around me when I get over in this area over here.
I'm Demetria Kaladimos. It's Banner & Company. North Nashville is home to some of our city's most significant institutions. Civil rights leaders trained there. Generations came of age there and attended its schools. But North Nashville has also experienced change, disruption, and neglect. The interstate ripped right through the heart of the community. Between that and the It City years, it was a neighborhood largely overlooked by people who lived outside of it. But those who call North Nashville home never stop believing in its importance. That's why one community member has dedicated her life and work to honoring the legacy of North Nashville, elevating the stories of this community that's been through a lot over the years. So this week we're doing something a little different. We're bringing you the premiere episode of a new independent podcast called We Are North Nashville. Andrea Tudhope and Steve Haruch are the audio producers here at the Banner. And before they started working here, they had already begun working on this project with artist and community organizer Simone Boyd. It focuses on 9 elders from North Nashville, and it tells their stories of the neighborhood. What it was like when they were growing up, the destruction that the interstate brought, and what it's been like for them to hold on to a sense of home through it all.
Arthur Avenue is a really wide street that I think captures a lot about North Nashville. So if you go under the interstate, on the other side, you see a lot of trash in the median. The sidewalks aren't quite as, the side that we're on, like the sidewalks are smooth, they're wide. There's trees between the street and the sidewalk. There's shade. And underneath the interstate on the other side, there are not as many trees and the sidewalk isn't as maintained. And it just kind of speaks to like a lot of the things in Nashville, but particularly North Nashville. Like, why is it like this? On this side, it feels like the birds are chirping. Like, why isn't it like that on the other side?
Where are the birds on the other side?
My name is Simone Boyd. I live in North Nashville. That means different things to different people. But to me, to my people, it means home. There's a lot I could say about North Nashville, but what I really want to do is introduce you to the people who make North Nashville what it is. It's a story about my people. It's a story that's beautiful, it's hopeful, and it's triumphant.
Like some of the other community members you'll meet in this podcast, Simone is not too quick to acknowledge her own role as a community connector. But if these 9 elders brought the wisdom that held this community together, Simone is the needle stitching that into the fabric of today's Nashville. We need Simone, and we need these elders. You'll see. I'm Andrea Tudhope.
And I'm Simone Boyd.
It's one neighborhood,
9 elders,
and the wisdom that held a community together.
This is our story.
My name is Patricia Streeter Jackson.
I'm Thomas H. Wilson Jr.
My name is Melvin Gill.
Marguerite Smithson.
I'm Lethea Carter.
And I'm Barbara Jean Watson.
My name is Larry Donnell Turnley Jr.
My name is Phoebe Larry Donnell Turnley Sr.
I'm Cheryl McReynolds, and we are North Nashville.
Hello, hey girl, how you doing? Come on in.
I heard your voice from behind that door.
Pastor? Oh, I thought you went upstairs. This is our new executive pastor. This is Andrea Frank.
It's a Tuesday morning, and the food pantry at Watson Grove Missionary Baptist Church is open.
Hold on, I'll get it in just come on. Yeah, they're right on time.
Just inside the back door, there are dozens of paper bags neatly lined up on folding tables, each one overflowing with shelf-stable food. Bread, canned vegetables, beans, boxes of pasta. Reverend Dr. Marguerite Smithson collects donations from all over. Second Harvest, Ladies of Charity.
So I'll just go through channels of asking, big, borrow. I don't steal anything, but I do. I do big and borrow. The Lord is just blessing you. You know, I ask, and He, even when I get down to it, there's nothing on those shelves. All of a sudden,
something comes in.
So that's our little food pantry.
Each bag is packed with a lot of love.
People, but I'm real picky, and I don't. That's what they accuse me of, because I'm too picky. But I'm like this. I'm not going to give anybody anything that I don't want.
Sure.
Plus, I don't want it just thrown in the bag or box any kind of way.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Yeah.
I want to treat people the way I want to be treated. And what might seem a minor thing, somebody down and out, it may hurt them.
They might know. Yep.
Yeah, so
right.
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Now let me get this laid. All right.
She's been running this food pantry every day for decades. And you can tell, she's got it down to a science. Time may have slowed her down a little bit, or threatened to anyway. But she has changed what she needed to keep it running. She wheels the heavy bags to the back door on an old microwave cart.
Okay, good morning. I'm sorry. I had some other things I was tending to in here. Both of you want a box?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And it's you and 3 kids?
Yes, ma'am.
You tell me 3 kids? That's how many sheets we filled up so far, and the month is not even gone.
Y'all know we help with rent.
I do. You'll have to fill out a form. That's the other thing that I do. That's the other thing that I do. I'll give you the form to fill out. And a number in your household?
3.
3 altogether, or you and 3 kids?
Me and 2 kids.
You and 2 kids?
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
All right. That works for me. All right. Hold on a minute.
Today?
Huh?
You got snacks today?
Yes, ma'am. I'll get you some snacks.
Okay.
All right. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay. I'm running low on my juices. I'm almost tempted not to give it, but I will. I'm such a softie. I'm such a softie. These are hard. I can't afford to give everybody 2, but I got some chocolate milk in there. So this is for the 3 kids, and then I'll give them a chocolate. They do know. They ask for the snacks. We don't always have them, but I do the best that I can. I wish I could give them more, but that's all I can do. 1 each of these. I think that'll be enough to drive that mother up the wall for a minute.
This spirit of generosity runs deep. It's something she learned from her village. Marguerite Smithson was born in 1948 at General Hospital on Lebanon Road, and she's been going to this church for just about as long as she can remember. Actually, she knows the exact year she joined, 1960, when she was 12 years old, because by then, her mother said, she'd come of age and knew enough to know what she was doing. 64 years later, we're sitting in her office in that very church as she thinks back on that time.
Being a female in ministry, it's This was a traditional Black Baptist church. Yes. You did not do that. Yes. Because when I was a little girl, didn't nobody tell me I was going to be preaching nobody's nothing.
But she did, and she has for 30 years.
Give me a second, because I'm going to send this young lady an email and a text. Because there's
one thing to know about Reverend Smithson is that she never stops.
And I'll give it to Demita. It was something to write on. I usually have stuff laying tomorrow. Somebody's always asking for a COVID test, so I tell you, my office is full of everything.
Her office is full of everything, she said. And this is where people come to get their needs met because they know they'll be cared for.
Yeah, I don't know about all that, but if I can't do it, I'll find somebody.
Warm light is pouring in from the small window that faces south. And that light trickles across the piles and piles of paper and files. And what I see when I see those papers and files are the people that she's helped apply for rent, utility assistance, receipts from the food pantry. These are her files that she's kept for 30 years. This is her kingdom. I need to tell y'all how I met Reverend Smithson, but to do that, I have to go back a little further.
I'm Demetria Kaladimos, and you're listening to a special presentation of We Are North Nashville. We'll be right back. If you're interested in building a more thriving and inclusive community by turning thoughtful generosity into positive change, well, you might want to know about one of our sponsors here at Banner & Company, the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee. It matches compassionate givers with worthy causes in ways that benefit all of us. Check them out at cfmt.org.
So while I grew up in Nashville, Bordeaux, I didn't move to North Nashville until 2016. And at that time, things were very difficult. We had a lot of challenges in the neighborhood. I remember parking our car on the street and a neighbor knocked on our door. We were getting ready to go to bed. We had just had a long day. And we were like, me and Philip looked at each other like, who knows we're here? And we, peeked out the door and we're like, yes. And our neighbor, Tori, she's like, you shouldn't park your car on the street because, people drive kind of crazy and your car could get hit. Like, we had been there 8 hours and already someone was looking out for us. And so on our street, in our neighborhood, even though there was care, it was still a hard time. Lots of sirens, lots of gunshots, just this sense of not knowing if violence would erupt at any moment. About a year and a half after we moved into our home was actually burglarized and ransacked, and the police didn't respond for a couple of hours. It was just such a violation. It was so traumatic, and I was afraid to be in the house, and I really didn't know if we could live there anymore. I just felt so unsafe. And I remember going to church one Saturday night, and Reverend Smithson was there. We had been going to Watson Grove for a few years. We were, saying goodbyes after church, and Reverend Smithson asked how we were doing. And she asked how we were doing. We're saying, it's been a hard week. Our home was burglarized. And she's like, okay, let's pray right now. And she grabs our hands and she says, Lord, thank you for Philip and Simone. I want you to protect them. And I just pray that you put rocks in those thieves' beds and they'll never get a peaceful night's sleep. And I was like, All right. And I reminded her of this recently.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Did I praise the Lord Jesus?
It made me laugh, and I really, really needed it. You see, you can call Reverend Smithson and your world can be falling apart. And she will say something, she will pray for you, and she will put it back together. Over the years, she's prayed for my family many, many times. We were prayer partners for a long time, and she helped my family get through some really, really hard times. Then in March 2020, after everything we had been through, a tornado ripped through our neighborhood. So the day of the tornado, that morning, we were driving through the neighborhood to see the damage, and I see Reverend Smithson walking on Arthur Avenue. I'm like, Reverend Smithson, thank you so much for coming to pray for us. And she looks at me like, Simone, I live right over here.
Her family moved over here around 1960, and she still lives over here today. It was here in North Nashville that Marguerite found her village.
Reverend Smithson has so many great memories from that time. She remembers being able to walk downtown to the arcade to buy Planters peanuts and up just a block to Buchanan, which at that time had an A&W root beer.
Girl, y'all, I'm telling you the truth. If y'all wanted a good root beer or a good root beer float, A&W had it up there. On a good spring or summer day, that was the height of your day, to walk up on Buchanan and get you A&W root beer.
The North Nashville she knew is a lot different from the one we know today. And her mom, who was known to the neighborhood as Mama Body, was one of the reasons for that.
We had community moms during that time, and you think about those times. They took care. If somebody fell down and scraped their knee, you didn't have to worry about, come on here, baby. Mm-hmm. Come on, I got you. Come on here, baby. And it was that kind of community, family, the village. That's it. It was the village.
You see, Mama Body was one of the neighborhood mothers. She took care of the neighborhood kids. She worked for Metro schools in the cafeteria. She potty trained. She made popsicles. She took care of other people's children when they had to go to work. She was a safe place, a loving place for kids from the neighborhood.
If somebody came to their house, they know they were going to get something to eat. They may not have any money, but they knew that they were going to get something to eat. Those ladies always kept the refrigerator or the cupboard so that if anybody come through, they would make sure that you had something to eat. May not have any money to give you, but they can give you love and a nice little plate. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, and we are a product of our environment. I think it made us better people. It's not what I can get from you. It's what I can give you in terms of love.
Like a lot of people in our community, they didn't know that they were poor. And they weren't, because North Nashville is rich in love, in care, in community.
It's a cold world, hard stuff happening, but when we came together, it took that away for a moment. All we had to do was get together and party.
The neighborhood was not like neighborhoods are now. I mean, we just had a great time. We played. Everybody's mom was everybody's mom. You couldn't do anything and get away with it. Everybody looked out for each other. I mean, my parents, they didn't have to lock the doors. We could come in and out of the house when we wanted to. It was basically, we're like family around here, just a great big family.
Everybody was important.
At that time, that growing up, we didn't hardly mingle too far out the neighborhood. But just that perimeter of the neighborhood people took care of each other. It was a real hand-on situation with the neighborhood. Like if my family seen next door neighbor children acting up, they would say something and bring it to their attention. But it was like a community of the neighborhood. We looked out for each other. We borrowed whatever we need. It was a neighborhood that had a lot of love.
It was a community, and they looked out for us.
Everybody had so much pride
in their property where they would always say blessed to live. There were flowers growing everywhere, honeysuckles, oh my God, fruit trees. I mean, it just, to me, that was home.
Marguerite used to walk down Arthur Avenue to the North Branch Library at 10th and Monroe. Today, it's the oldest library in Nashville. It was built in 1915, gifted to the community by Andrew Carnegie, who actually gifted multiple libraries to Nashville, one for whites only and one for Black Nashvillians. That one opened a year later, downtown near Fisk's original campus. By the time Marguerite moved to North Nashville, anyone could go to the North Branch Library, and she went all the time.
It created this world for us outside of what we know. We knew where we were. We knew we were Black, and we knew that folk counted us out.
The library offered an escape from that as much as it could.
She remembers a summer work program she was part of with other kids from the neighborhood. They were assigned to work at North High School, which was a white school.
And one of the things that stuck out for me, even though we were in there, we were cleaning, we were wiping, we were dusting, what stuck out more than anything, I saw books that were brand new for them, but we got the used books. And I don't think I ever forgot that. And it's still a part of me just hurt a little bit already, even now, to think in terms of when I went back to school, I remember the books that I saw at North High versus what we were given.
Things would not get easier. At this point in the 60s, Marguerite was in school at Pearl High when the Vietnam War hit home.
It didn't click until Uncle Sam decided to start drafting. I mean, it looks like every week somebody was saying, so-and-so got shot in Vietnam. The funeral's going to be here, or so-and-so is missing in action. You know, it was like, why are our people dying?
It was a wake-up call. A cold world was beginning to break through their sweet root beer, float-filled, fried apple pie, moms at every corner community. But Vietnam was just the tip of the iceberg.
You almost develop a thick skin of one event after another. I mean, John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963, and I remember that like it was yesterday.
I was in school that day. You know, I remember.
I remember when Martin Luther King was assassinated.
We had a talent show that, and I'll never forget it a day in my life. We were going to perform, and I had to go out there and try to explain to the people what had happened.
They put us on curfew. There was a riot up on Jefferson Street.
The military being on some of these streets. People were tearing up things, and it made people very angry.
Matter of fact, my brother was riding in a car, and a policeman on a motorcycle rode by and stabbed him in the arm with a knife.
It was just one thing after another was piled on.
One of the most devastating moments in my life as an adult was the tornado of 2020.
The tornado came through and wiped out a lot of things, you know. When it was light out and you could come out and see, people were just standing there where they used to live, just staring at it. There's destruction, so people are desperate.
There were so many people who were displaced, and that's the hard part.
Disruption came to this community in many forms over the years. But there was one in particular that would permeate deeply, and the community would feel its impacts for a long, long time.
It needs to be pointed out, the things that were done to North Nashville to sacrifice that part of Nashville in the name of progress. And subsequent to that has been benign neglect of trying to replenish this community that still exists. And it reminds me of what I've heard some black people say, why is it so hard to be black in America? Why is it so hard to be a human being? That everything that's gotten, it has to be fought for. and it shouldn't be that way.
Simone and I are standing underneath the highway where I-40 passes over Arthur Avenue. The construction of this interstate would divide this community. Literally, it now draws the line between two Metro Council districts. It's a divide you can see, like Simone was describing at the beginning of this episode. Those of us who were born after the 50s and 60s don't often think about how these highways came to be, or what came before, what was demolished to make way, how it deeply impacted what came after.
Let's just say there were 20 homes within this. Let's just say there are 20 homes. Let's say there was 20 families and those children. When you have the idea planted that at any moment your whole family and your whole life can be uprooted, well, when someone comes along to me and says, well, you should vote, it's like, I'm sorry, what? Our whole life was uprooted and nobody asked us anything. So what do you mean we should vote? Like, and so I think it's a larger conversation, and it goes back to just how damaging. And then people have no idea. They're like, well, why are things like this? This is because the government demonstrated that they didn't care what we thought, our opinions weren't valued. I mean, I've seen pictures of TSU students literally sitting in front of bulldozers like, please don't build this here. And it didn't matter. It was built anyway. But we had people who are here who have stayed despite racism and, I mean, despite their families being uprooted, despite disinvestment, despite Jefferson Street, like all these things that have stayed and continue to, despite all odds, despite your experience, you're still continuing to give and you still hold on to hope. I don't know how people do that, but people like Reverend Smithson and Miss Barbara Jean and Mr. Larry and all these people, they continue to do that. They continue to hold on to hope, continue to give, and continue to exist and build in this place despite the things that have happened to us for decades. And so that's why it feels really important to learn from them and uplift their stories and to add their voice to public memory.
That's why Simone formed the Council of Elders, the elders you'll meet through this podcast, the folks who have stayed against all odds. We have a lot to learn from them. It's our turn to listen. Driving on I-40, you could blink and miss North Nashville. Zip by on your way through the city or out of the state and not have to think about any of this. The original plan didn't even include a single exit for North Nashville. Community members had to fight for even that much. But standing still underneath this highway, you can feel what it did. It's dark and empty. So last year, Simone organized a celebration to reclaim this space. A jazz musician performed. 2 long dinner tables were set for 100 people. They were decorated with place settings, flowers, crystal glasses. A chandelier hung from the ceiling, the underbelly of the highway. It was bright and it was beautiful.
So I was standing right there, like right at this, like, And the elders were sitting there in their chair and they were lining up, and I just broke down crying. I just started crying because it was a moment of togetherness, a moment of seeing these people who have done so much for our community, seeing them together and realizing literally collectively the hundreds of years that they've spent in this community, caring for each other, loving people, and they were all here together underneath this thing that was built to break us. Underneath this system that was built to break us, here they are sitting all here together, smiling, caring for each other, and it was really powerful. And it was also humbling because they trusted me. I was like, hey y'all, wanna come have dinner underneath the interstate? And they're like, yes, what time? And to be able to just give something back, I get to be able to just give something back to people who are giving our community so much. I feel incredibly grateful and humbled for that.
This podcast is executive produced and edited by me, Andrea Tudhope. It comes to you with additional production support from the team behind the We Are North Nashville Community Elders Storytelling Project. That's Simone Boyd, Steve Haruch, and myself. Thank you to our Council of Elders, whose guidance has informed and fortified us every step of the way. Our beautiful theme music comes from SRAP. Celine Thaxton and Carissa Stolting from Unmanageable provided fundraising and administrative support. This podcast is made possible by financial contributions from Chrissy Washburn, the Frist Foundation, Just Economy Institute, Latham Berry, and the Tennessee Arts Commission. If you want to support our community-based work, go to our website at wearenorthnashville.org.